Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Allison Smith. I am a professor at UMass Global, and I'm going to be talking in this video about building on student assets and why it's so important as an effective educator. This is a core foundational aspect of the CalTPA. You need to understand how to build on student assets and to take this type of approach as you're supporting your students in the classrooms. Uh, Building on assets, this is sometimes a struggle because often we naturally want to think about, okay, what's missing or what's wrong? What does the student not know? What can't they do? Well, unfortunately, when you take that approach, it's focused on the deficits of what students cannot do. So this is in contrast to that, and you want to build on their assets. Their assets are what they come to the classroom knowing, their past experiences, their culture, language. As you get to know your students, you'll find there are so many great things that they know that you can build on. And building on those things makes them more engaged in the content. It also affirms to them that they belong, and it ultimately gets your students being more successful because they see themselves in what they're learning. They can connect to the things that they already know. So this is not just some little concept you need to know. It's really foundational to great teaching. And in the CalTPA, throughout the entire thing, you will need to show that you know your students, you know how to build on those assets of theirs, and you can design lessons that do that. You can reflect on how effective you were with that. And then you can plan future lessons to further affirm their assets, their backgrounds, cultures, language, interest. So when you're planning, you want to first get to know your students. So it might feel intriguing to go online and find a random lesson plan and just teach it to your students. The problem is it's not building on who your students are. It's not connected to the students you have in front of you. So the important thing is to first get to know who your students are. And then as you pull in different sources, you can go online, AI, fellow teachers, uh, colleagues, administrators, and find some ideas for lessons. You can then adapt them to meet the needs of your students that you have in front of you. And the way you get to know your students is talking with them. Sometimes you can survey them through some very intentional ways, asking questions like, what do you do outside of school? Looking at their cultures. What cultural things do they do in the community? What are they interested in? Do you have a lot of students who are in sports, or maybe you live in a coastal community and surfing is big, or maybe it's a rural area and there's a lot of farming in the area. So these are things that you would learn. These are the assets of your students. Their language. How can you support bilingualism? How can you do translanguaging where you're building on their first language and then incorporating English and then the academic language into that, but building on the strengths that they have in their first language? Uh, these are all aspects of an asset-based approach. And in the CalTPA, you are going to have to showcase that you know their assets. So in cycle one, for example, you will have to, in your template, in the contextual information, explain what those student assets are. So you get to know them and you write down, okay, this is their background, their culture, their interest, what they already know about the subject area. And you write all of those things out. These are the things they know. These are the assets I'm going to build on. Then in the lesson plan, then you write what you're going to be teaching that builds on those assets. And in the rationale, you explain how the lesson builds on all of the assets of your students. And uh, So as you're writing, you're always writing about assets. What do they already know? It's really powerful when you look at your student and you're not focused on what they don't know or cannot do, and you think about them. They're little human beings. They have so much experience that they're bringing into the classroom, and utilizing that and really leveraging their knowledge and their interest to make the educational environment that you're creating in the class really supportive, strong, inclusive, and it gets them engaged. You'll see it if you have a situation or a problem that really connects to them on a personal level, you'll see them peak interest and really engage more in it, or get them to debate things, depending on what level you're at. Uh, at all levels, you could get students really engaged. Okay, which is better? And get them to think about different aspects. But if those choices are things that uh, they have personal knowledge, experience, they have an opinion about it, uh, you'll see them naturally engage. And so this helps also with classroom management when you're building on their assets. You'll see less behavioral issues because guess what? You've got them interested, you've pulled them in. It directly relates to them and their lives. So that's what I really want you to focus on as you are becoming an educator, is really thinking deeply about why we build on student assets, and then how we do it. So the how is first get to know them, ask questions, talk with your students, don't just talk at them, get them going. And then figuring out ways to leverage those assets into all of your lesson planning and all of your reflecting. In the Cal TPA, you'll see it. You'll have to plan according to the assets. You will need to teach and think about, okay, how am I doing this as I'm teaching? And when you reflect, you're going to have to include, okay, how effective was I in really leveraging the student assets? Uh, and then on the apply, it can be, what can I do to further affirm who they are and leverage those assets and build on them? Always thinking about, was it effective? Yes or no, explaining why and how you would know that. And then thinking, how can I do it more? You can bring in lots of examples, and you can do problem solving that's a relevant problem to their lives. Uh, so think about your students in the way that they have a lot of great experiences and backgrounds, culture, language, things they do in the community. And how can you get to know them, utilize that, and make amazing lesson plans and get them really engaged in what you're doing in the classroom rather than it being a disconnect between the content. You're focused on the standards and this is what they have to know and this is what I'm testing them on, to really an inclusive environment where your students feel that they belong and they care. So that's how you build on student assets. I hope this has been helpful. I really encourage us all to not take a deficit approach. It's not about what students don't know, it's about what they do know, and it will help in your whole classroom environment. You will be happy if you're always bringing in these assets. Bye.